Peace and blessings be upon you. We thank Allah the Almighty, and may Allah bestow His peace and blessings upon the Prophet, peace be upon him. And we continue our discussion in this program in the gracefulness of Al-Rawda al-Sharifa. And we take in this episode the opportunity, after we discussed in the previous episode about what had occurred in the gracefulness of Al-Rawda, and especially the revealing of the Holy Quran to the Prophet, peace be upon him, what was revealed from it in the gracefulness of Al-Rawda al-Sharifa, and how he taught it to his companions, and what he had talked about, that the Quran was written in the era of the Prophet, peace be upon him, but it was kept in the hearts of his companions that were memorizing the Quran, and that they learned it daily with the Prophet, peace be upon him. In this episode, we continue our discussion about what had occurred in the gracefulness of Al-Rawda al-Sharifa, of events and hadith, and we said that the Muslim must, and we repeat that he must realize that the Sunnah is a revelation, and that the Prophet, peace be upon him, nor does he speak of desire, it is only a revelation revealed as it came in the Quran. So, we must learn and teach our children, and teach our parents, and teach our students that Sunnah completes what has come down in the Holy Quran. And the Prophet, peace be upon him, taught us, rather I have been given the Holy Quran and something that is like it with it. So when we come to the gracefulness of Rawda al-Sharifa today and talk, we must say that the most important part, not to accept any change in the correct hadith of the Holy Prophet that were written in the books, and in two great books, Al-Bukhari and Muslim. And what came in other books? But the Al-Bukhari and Muslim are the most honest books after Allah the Almighty's holy book. And when we come and talk about hadith, we have faith that this is what the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, had said. And he taught it to the companions, a saying or an action or a guidance or an order or a forbiddance. And the companions recorded it. So when we discuss the hadith today, we realize that it is Allah's order, that this sunnah is a complementary to the Quran. These ahadith are complementary because they occurred in the same time that the Prophet, peace be upon him, was teaching his companions. He ordered them or forbid them or guide them or talk to them. And the Quran, the Prophet, peace be upon him, had witnessed that he who obeys the messenger has indeed obeyed Allah. If you love Allah, then follow me. All these words and other verses all witness that what the Prophet, peace be upon him, spoke in, nor does he speak of desire. It is only a revelation revealed. And this makes the human remember what had occurred in Al-Rawda. This part of what involves the hadith, the companions used to sit in the gracefulness of Al-Rawda. Here in Al-Rawda al-Sharifa, as if they were birds on their heads, out of politeness and listening and quietness, and going to listen to what the Prophet, peace be upon him, was saying. And each of them records what was heard. And to narrate from the Prophet, peace be upon him, and if he narrates it to others that way, then in this case, we must learn that the honorable hadith had been served. From the companions of the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, who they memorized the hadith, nerds about the Prophet, peace be upon him. Then came men and served the hadith and wrote it and recorded it. Therefore, it came to us after that great service from the Islamic nation, whom took from the followers and followed it until it came to us. Whoever comes to the hadith must realize that he must have politeness while speaking about the Prophet's hadith, peace be upon him. It comes second after the Quran, and it is complementary for what came in the Quran, and that the Prophet, peace be upon him, forbid writing it in the first stage when the Quran was being revealed to the Prophet, peace be upon him. He was afraid it would mix with the Quran. Because the companions were memorizing the Quran, and before it was written, as we said, it was written on animal skin and bones, and the Quran was gathered in the Prophet's era, but was not collated in a volume. So the Prophet forbid writing the hadith down at the beginning, but after that, the hadith was written, even in his lifetime, peace be upon him. And his life, peace be upon him, some scrolls were written, the correct scroll and the truthful scroll, and the letters the Prophet, peace be upon him, sent it, and values he decided it. So whoever comes to these moments realizes, when we say here in Al-Rawda Al-Sharifa, here the hadith occurred. From the Prophet, peace be upon him, to the companions. The hadith that he narrated, a companion after a companion after a companion, a man to his father, to his children, to his friend. All of this is recorded carefully with the care of Allah the Almighty. When we come to the hadith, we must have faith that the hadith from the Prophet, peace be upon him, and we must respect and we must obey the Prophet, peace be upon him, because many of the Islamic things that happened in the gracefulness of Rawda al-Sharifa was taught by the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, to the companions. And we must listen to the religious experts that distinguished these hadiths. In the Sihah, they discharge special books for it. The Bukhari and Muslim were the most honest books that held these hadiths. Of course, when we look at the gracefulness of Al-Rawda Al-Sharifa, we notice that it was here that the Prophet, peace be upon him, taught the companions how to respect the hadith and warns them about the dangers. And I repeat this in this episode again, and to the dangers of those men and women who speak about the Quran. It is like they glorify the Quran, but they say, we are Quranian. What we find in the Quran, we follow. And what we find in others, we do not accept. And we do not accept other than the Quran. And they deny the hadith. And this is a great fabrication, because the Prophet, peace be upon him, taught us that the Quran was revealed to the Holy Prophet. Rather, I have been given the Quran. Then, verses came to prove that this Prophet, peace be upon him, what he was teaching and what he was narrating is a complementary. Muslim men and women must not, while they are listening to this program in the gracefulness of Al-Rawda, to let himself and to say that he does not accept the hadith. This is great hastiness, and it is a great fault, and that has great danger, because a Muslim must have faith in Allah and His Prophet, peace be upon him, and in the Quran, and in the hadith of the Prophet, peace be upon him. It has details of the Muslim's life. All the issues of the Islamic nation came in the Quran. and guides from Allah the Almighty also came. And then the Prophet, peace be upon him, explained the things in the hadith. And it is not right for one of us to say, I am Qurani. No, no. The Prophet, peace be upon him, he previously warned us. He warned us from the crisis with Allah had given him and what Allah had taught him, that you might find a man leaning on his couch and as if he is pointing to our days. And what had happened? In previous days, a man leans on his couch and says, we are Quranian. Rather, I have been given the Quran and something that is like it with it. Here, we know in the gracefulness of Al-Rawda Sharifa, more that hadith that we will recite in one of these episodes. We learn that the politeness of talking from the Prophet, peace be upon him, how the companions, may Allah bless them, used to hurry to take from the Prophet, peace be upon him, and preserve it by memorizing or writing, because some of them wrote, some of them memorized, but most people could not read or write. And the people who could write were few. They wrote some hadith, and they were, as we said, written parts. And from here we learn how to treat the hadith al-sharif that was narrated in the gracefulness of Al-Rawda al-Sharifa, or another occasion, or in another place, inside or outside Mecca, or in the Prophet's battles, peace be upon him, or events that occurred, because the Sunnah is revelation, and it is not all the words of the Prophet, peace be upon him, but also the actions of the Prophet, peace be upon him. Those men who accompanied the Prophet, peace be upon him, brought this pure Sunnah, and from here came a great responsibility to teach ourselves and to teach our children to respect the pure Sunnah and to follow it and to take care of it. And when I read the Quran, I make sure to follow the Sunnah and to go to religious places where a hadith, the Prophet, peace be upon him, are being read. And I go to places where the experts speak about the hadith that occurred in the honorable Rawda al-Sharifa. And here we come to an important case. That case is the Sunnah is revelation. And those men who took from the Prophet, peace be upon him, teach us how they used to respect what the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, and what he taught them, and more, to the point their faithfulness in narrating it. And specifically, and with faithfulness, until it got to who followed them, and who will follow to this very day. And so, the hadith is a great thing. This hadith was served for many years. We said some of it was written in the Prophet's era, but not all the hadith was written, and more, and then it was written and gathered with the efforts of a faithful men, and were specialized in this subject, and wrote down these ahadith, and made sure to gather all the ahadith from everyone that memorized them, such as Abu Huraira, Allah bless him. He was one of the people who memorized many hadiths. And when we speak about those men, we find that Abu Huraira used to accompany the Prophet, peace be upon him, in the Rawda. Here he used to sit with very little food, just to be near the Prophet, peace be upon him. He had taken the chance and pray to Allah the Almighty to assist him in memorizing, and to ask the Prophet, peace be upon him, to pray for him, to be a memorizer to this hadith, and for Allah the Almighty to give him this talent. And so the Prophet, peace be upon him, prayed for him. And the effect of that, he was able to memorize almost 4,300 hadiths. These hadith that were narrated by Abu Huraira. And when we see it and analyze it, we hear men talk about a hadith. And it was said that Abu Huraira's hadith are 4,300. Look at the science and call the experts to know that the people that analyzed Abu Huraira's hadith saw that the one hadith could be narrated in 20 and 25 ways. The same hadith repeated. If we cut out the repeated, one told the other to what is more than 1,200 hadith. So if we delete the hadith that was narrated by someone with Abu Huraira, we find that what Abu Huraira memorized alone does not exceed the fingers of one hand. Experts serve this thing to see the faithfulness of the companions in the narration, meaning that you see more companions and wonder how they came to this amount. Look at his companions, friends, and the people that gathered with him, peace be upon him. These things bring us closer to Hadith al-Sharif. With respect, we learn that these men were faithful to the Hadith. And that is why Abu Huraira, may Allah bless him, was from the people who considered reciting. And at the beginning, he was not writing, and he started to write. And that how the writers were few in writing the Hadith. Then Allah the Almighty wanted the men who came after to serve this issue. We find that noble Aisha was also one of the people who narrated much of the Hadith, due to her closeness to the Prophet, peace be upon him, and due to her age. So she memorized, and she used to be with him, peace be upon him, at home. And she would listen to his recitings and his ahadith. And she memorized, but the narrations she narrated after the Prophet, peace be upon him, were narrated in so many places, meaning that the Prophet, peace be upon him, used to narrate al-hadith, then tell them again that companions take it or that companion does. And the hadith deserves respect, appreciation, and faith from us. That it is from the Prophet, peace be upon him, and hadith from the Prophet, peace be upon him, those companions were entrusted on it and brought it to us. And the experts entrusted on it. So they tool out everything of the hadith that did not belong to and restricted themselves to that. The correct hadith were shown. A person does not have a right to dare talking about the hadith while he does not know about that. And that is the basic beginning, is to say that I believe in the book of Allah and His Messenger's Sunnah. I believe in the book of Allah and His Messenger's Sunnah, and to follow the right path, the experts, and calls the scholars, and listens to them, and does not replace himself or his son or his parents, and he does not sit with anyone who dares to disrespect Allah's book and Sunnah. Because in this era, we need an important subject, which is to make sure of people's faith. That is, firmed to the book of Allah, the Quran, that does not harm it between his hands or from behind him, and with the Sunnah of the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, and what came from the Prophet, peace be upon him, and what came from the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him. Then we raised ourselves and our children to respect this hadith And here we say an important issue, which is the hadith that the companions have learned. The companions learned in Al-Rawda. We will shed light on it in the next episode to show how the companions learned from the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, in many occasions, but the honorable prophetic Rawda has bright sides. And to the next episode, inshallah, and peace and blessings be upon you.